Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. Let's watch.
It is my first full day in Abuja, but already Usman and I got in a fight about the second wife. I am totally fine with Usman taking a second wife as long as I don't have to meet her. But Usman thinks that I have.
Okay. So on the one hand, it's like you can ask for that and be specific. So I'm totally fine with you marrying someone else. I just don't want to have to see her. I think there's a lot more stipulations that she's alluded to beyond that. I want to be primary. I don't want you to actually have a relationship with this woman. I don't want her to live in the, there's a lot of stipulations. The other thing is that if that's true, are you really okay with it? Or are you just hoping to be in denial of the fact that your husband has another wife? I don't know, but I could absolutely see that being true.
Because we still have to talk about it more. Anyway, tell me about this guy we're meeting.
Oh, he's my friend. And he called me today. He was like, hey, bro, what's up? I said, okay, I'm hanging around with my babe. Can you come over? He was like, okay. Yeah, he has like a couple wives, like some wives.
So that's why you brought me here? That's why you brought me, to make me feel better about your second wife?
Is there anything wrong with that?
Yeah, I mean, so you brought me here to make me feel better about your second wife? And he's like, is there anything wrong with that? Because that's the road we're going down. If we're going to work out, a deal breaker for me is that I am going to get married to someone else, have kids with that person. So yeah, a big goal here, an objective here is that to make you more comfortable with what you've agreed that you're saying you're comfortable with.
Okay.
I went to my friend to talk to Kimbali before we go to Sokoto about having second wife. He has the experience, so that whenever my family trying to bring, like the discussion about, second wife, she'll have some idea about it.
Okay, on one hand, sure, to have someone say, this is the situation, could potentially help, but it could also not help because for Kimberly, she could be like, but I don't want the typical situation. But I don't even think Kimberly knows that. The way she's approaching it is just like, okay, fine, you can have this, but I want it in my particular way, and it will be that way. Instead of saying, like, so what are we talking about here? Where are the possible compromises here? Because maybe we're incompatible. Is the thing that I would wonder. The other thing I wonder is if Usman is trying to strong-arm her socially by saying, look, I'm not abnormal, you're abnormal, because I'm going to have this guy come in and say, this is normal. So if I were Usman's friend, I would say, let's hold off on I think you have to lay this out a little bit more, because I think Usman is kind of avoiding it too. I wish that so here's what I would wish the two of them would do, is that they would sit down and say, okay, Usman would say, here's what I would want in my perfect world is X, Y, and Z. And I hear you don't want some of those things, but that would be my ideal. But I'm willing to give in on some of these things. But here's my limit. I can't go this far with the compromises. And but that doesn't mean I don't love you. It doesn't mean that I won't care about you or won't listen to you. But that's as far. This is the range of what I'm. And anything beyond that, then we just gonna have to say goodbye to each other, and it'll be sad for me. But that's where my limit is. And then for her, the same. It was just like, in an ideal world, you wouldn't marry anyone else. But I'm willing to give in this far. And then if there's an overlap in the Venn diagram, then that's where they shoot for. But they don't ever say things like that. It's always just demands and conflict and splashes in the face and bringing in triangulated thirds.
But I told her that I have to have a child. And in Africa, it is so important.
Exactly. Very, very important.
And Kimbali said that she's okay with that.
No, I'm okay. I mean, yeah, I'm okay with that. But like having multiple marriages is not my culture. That's not what we do.
Yeah, I know. You don't have to be afraid of anything.
I'm terrified.
No.
You don't have to be.
You don't have to.
Okay, good. So she is admitting to the core of the issue, which is I'm terrified, which would make total sense. I'm guessing, I don't know, that she's terrified that it's going to be terrible and that she's going to lose Usman, that Usman's going to fall in love with someone else, consider someone else to be more important than she is. That's a rational worry. They have not talked about that, and there's no way to know how that's going to turn out, especially the depth at which they talk about it. So maybe we're heading in the right direction. Now, what Usman and friend are saying is there's nothing to worry about. And I would say, I don't think you know that. Now, I'm also guessing that they come from a culture that is extremely sexist. I don't know, more sexist in the United States or sexist in a different way, where it's just like, well, you know, women are fine with it over here. When it's like, well, do they have a choice? Now, maybe they do. Can women marry multiple men in your society? So I'm guessing that a lot of women exhibit acceptance because they don't have any other choice, or they've been indoctrinated or something. So from their standpoint, it's just like, there's nothing to worry about. Women never complain about it. And I wish Usman, because that's his job, would turn to be, okay, what are you afraid of? Because let's talk, what exactly are you afraid of?
Because I'm like the first wife, right? So what are their roles? Are they equal?
They are the same. Yes.
Great. We're actually getting specifics. And I think Usman is now caught in a bind. We'll see what he says, because I think he knows that this is going to be a sticking point, but I think he also might have some flexibility around that. So let's see what happens.
Okay.
So was it where you are as a Madewa? Okay. Amadolo, you have to hide it. Kanuna must show because they are equal. Idan Kanuna one tap one to
Kamaka said he has two wives.
Going to start.
And if you love one the most, you have to hide it and show them they are all equal. You love them equal.
Okay, interesting. It's pretty awful, though. Can you just imagine living in a society like that where you marry someone and it's well understood that your husband, your partner, is at least, maybe even if he's acting like he loves you, that he might just be acting like that because that's what you have to do to appease people, to be able to control them? Or, I don't know.
Even if it is not right,
so
like you showed him.
That's not what you told me, though. Because you said, like, the first wife gets all the love. This is what you told me.
No, that is right.
The respect.
The respecting is the issue. You get that, I promise you.
Well, I don't care about that.
Okay, good, because I would imagine that wouldn't be the core of the matter. She's saying, look, it's not about respect, it's about love. It's about attachment, it's about dedication, it's about connection. So at least I think that's what she's saying, and that would make much more sense, because that is much more fundamental to our well-being than respect is. Often respect is stated, especially in couple relationships, but really what's happening is you just feel pushed away. You feel like the person doesn't care about your feeling. You feel disconnected. So now I'm not saying you can like disrespect your partner and have that go well, but so it's good. She's showing herself. I'm terrified of not having primary affection. So it's good that they're talking about this. I hope they get even more specific. We don't know where. So if I were there, I'd be like, okay, Usman, I think we know what she wants. She wants to be primary, not only just in the respect. She doesn't want to be respected by, it sounds like she doesn't want to see this other person. And I think, and I would check in with Kimberly, are you saying like, I would get practical with it. I'd be like, okay, so how many days a week could he spend the night or the day, what percentage of the week could he spend with not only his other wife, but his other family? There's a chance that they'll have multiple children. So what percentage would that look like? Now, maybe for Kimberly, she's like, well, I mean, if he has kids, 50-50, something like that. But the way she talks, I think she wants 99% of his time. At least I think she even said as much last episode. So I would really try to drill on that. That'd be like, okay, well, is there any wiggle room there? Usman, what are you willing to compromise about?
As Usman has explained this to me numerous times, the role of the second wife is basically just to like have the children. That's all he really needs her for. If Usman would have been like more upfront and said like, no, I have to love both of them equally, blah, 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 I wouldn't have been okay with that.
Yeah, if he has led her astray, which I think there's evidence of. I also think she was in denial. I think she was reading into it and believing things that she wanted to believe. But absolutely, if Usman was misleading her, or at the very least not being upfront, then that's not okay.
I have the potential to have 9, and I don't want to take long time, so why not having 2 more wives plus you, 4.
No, there's no way. No, I can barely deal with one. You think I'm gonna let you? No, I don't give a
If I
damn.
have 4 wives, wait, I want you to hear that now. If I have 4 wives plus you, like I have 3 more, if this one gives twins, first birth, wait.
I'm listening.
Serious.
I'm listening.
Then the second wife give an.
Okay, yeah, I thought he was joking too, but I think he actually is being serious, which I think is not abnormal for his culture. He's like, I could have a number of wives. And I think in his way, he thinks he's compromising. It's interesting. I think in his way, he's like, well, if I can have 3 other wives, so the second wife will give maybe 2. I think what he might be thinking is, I won't have to spend as much time with each of them because it won't take as long to get them pregnant. Is that what he's saying? And so I'll be able to spend more time with you. Whereas if, I think that's what he's saying. I think he's saying, I need a number of children, there's a minimum amount of children. So if I have 1 wife and there's you, then that means I'm going to spend a lot of time with that 1 wife with, getting her at least pregnant. Okay. But if I have 3 wives, then I will spend, and I'm looking for 6 kids or X amount of kids, then I only have to spend a little bit of time with each one. And thus you won't be threatened because I won't be spending very much time with any of the other women. So I think in his mind, he thinks he's actually compromising and giving her what she wants, which I don't think is working.
Another maybe 1 or 2. Before in just 2-3 years, I can have like 10 and we're done.
That is the dumbest thing I ever heard.
10. He wants 10 children, right? So if he had 1 wife, there'd be a lot of time spent with the other women. I wonder, does someone know what it's like for women in this culture? Because it doesn't sound very pleasant, but I do work with polyamorous people in Seattle and have worked very closely with a lot of clients who are polyamorous, and I know that absolutely can work. So this is like a version of that, but it's obviously unidirectional, meaning that the men have the freedom and the expectation, the women don't. But I could also see that working where women are like, well, it's okay because we can get our needs met in the following ways, and sometimes I don't want them around, or I don't know. I'm just curious and I'm sure it's not a monolith. I'm sure it's really quite varied in terms of. But does anyone know what that is like? What it feels like? What sort of is the preferred path in life? Because I don't know if I'm hearing and almost pseudo supporting, I suppose, an institution in a culture that is highly oppressive to half the population, i.e. the women. Obviously, that's possible. I don't want to assume anything, but I know enough from other cultures and other situations like this in history that it absolutely is horrible and abusive and controlling and completely discounted. I mean, the way he talks about these other women, presumably that he hasn't met yet, that they're basically just incubators for children, is dehumanizing on a grand scale. So there's at least that. But I don't know. I don't know how to talk about this.
I'm not, no. Look, we said 1. If I was cool with 1, now you're talking about 3 and 4. No. Anyway, so how, do they live together?
Da farko daban-daban suke. Daga bayan yadda na gama gidana suka tare gida da.
Okay, the 2 of them are living in the same house.
What if, just say, I don't want to meet the second wife, I don't want to see the kids, because I don't live here. And I don't think it's funny. I really don't think it's funny.
Okay, so this is great. They're doing what I was hoping they'd be doing from the very beginning, honestly. She's saying, okay, what if I didn't want to live with the other woman because I don't live here? She mentions that again. Sounds like she doesn't want to move there and he doesn't want to move to the States. She wants to be able to visit and have him all to herself, which actually could work depending on how often she comes out, right? Especially if she only comes out maybe a 1/4 of the year. That might be actually possible, where you could have a number of wives, I guess, and then when she arrives, he spends maybe even all of his time with her. But does she plan on coming a majority of the year? I don't know. All right. Well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself and take care of others because we all deserve it. We really, really do.